Nearman Condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
This is Mr. Chris Claremont, a legend.
Melanie goes,
Tired.
Happy Monday, all you minties. Uncanny Omar here from Nearman Condition, the home of collected editions. I've got another X-Men overview for you today. That's right, today we're going to be taking an advanced look at the Uncanny X-Men by Brian Michael Bendis Omnibus from Marvel Comics. So, let's go ahead and get started. Before going any further, a big thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us an advanced copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market and book market on November 25th or 26th, depending on where you get your books. And speaking of direct market and book market, what we are looking at here is the standard edition cover. This is the one that is supplied by Chris Bachalo, and it's actually the one that comes from the issue 600. Yeah, and showcases most of our main players here in the very front. On the left-hand side is your standard edition cover. On the left-hand side is your direct market cover. That one is supplied by Ed McGuinness. And also, it does have a complete wraparound cover. Just like this one here will have a different image on the back, so the spines are different. That cover right there, the direct market cover, is only available through places like cheapgraphicnovels.com, waltzcomicshop.com, bdcosmos.com, dyingbreedcollectors.com, readcomics.com, comicsbugle.com, as well as forbiddenplanet.com, InStock Trades, DCBS, Tales of Wonder, panel-bound books, and, of course, your local comic book store. Everything underneath the dust jacket is the same. So, while I have this here, let's turn this to the spine, Marvel Omnibus, Uncanny X-Men by Brian Michael Bendis, Bachalo, Irving, Anka, and Sorrentino, and that image of Cyclops, to me, my X-Men. And who is this agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Again, that image is different than the Ed McGuinness wraparound cover. Join the revolution, the ISBN down there, the retail price being $125. While we have the dust jacket on, let's go ahead and put it on the shelf. I'm putting it right next to my all-new X-Men Omnibus. But the Black Vortex stories are not collected in here either. That's the Guardians of the Galaxy and X-Men crossover. So that is something to keep in mind. I'll talk a little bit more about that when we open up the book. And let's look at the flaps. Cyclops was right. Man, I've seen so many people wear that t-shirt right there. And a little bio on the creators, like Brian Michael Bendis and, honestly, Chris Anka. Oh, this is done in alphabetical order. Chris Anka, Chris Bachalo, and Frazier Irving, Andrea Sorrentino. And underneath the dust jacket is all the supporters for the mutant movement. Could be mutants themselves, could be allies, but that image is supplied by Frazier Irving. So let's go ahead and open up this omnibus and talk about these particular stories found in here, and look at the build, and look at the extras of the book. And we'll do a comparison because the stories in here have been collected before in oversized hardcovers with volumes 1, 2, and the Battle of the Atom. Okay, let's go ahead and get this open. You have your red end sheets and Uncanny X-Men title page, and here are the credits. All of this written by Brian Michael Bendis, and it is broken down by the different artists through the different story arcs. And you have Chris Bachalo actually doing a majority of this. Bachalo, that's it. That's how Curtis told me to pronounce it. If you got problems with the way I pronounce it, go yell at Curtis. And you have Tim Townsend doing all of his inks with Jaime Mendoza and Victor Olazaba, Mark Irwin. And then you also have Frazier Irving doing a lot of the artwork, Chris Anka doing a lot of the artwork through here, Marco Rudy, Valerio Schitti, and a whole bunch of artists for the Uncanny X-Men issue 600. Over here is where you have the breakdown of the Battle of the Atom, so you have people like Frank Cho and Stuart Eminem, and then you have the different writers, because Brian Michael Bendis, while he wrote the entirety of Uncanny X-Men, and of course the Battle, I think he actually did Battle for the Atom issue number 1, if I'm not mistaken. But over here, you have people like Brian Wood writing Adjectiveless X-Men, Jason Aaron doing the Battle for the Atom, and Wolverine and the X-Men. So that is very important to note, that even though Bendis did all the Uncanny, the Battle for the Atom will have other people writing it. So this gives you a small recap as to what's happened previously. So collected in here is Uncanny X-Men, the relaunch from 2013. So it would be, what, Volume 3? Because the second relaunch was with Kieran Gillen. Anyway, yes, Volume 3. Issues 1 through 35, including 15 dot in INH, which is the Inhumanity, that's what it was called. And then when it was renumbered to issue 600, so you're not missing anything in between those issues. All New X-Men issues 16 through 17, Wolverine and the X-Men 36 through 37, X-Men Battle of the Atom 1 and 2, X-Men, Adjectiveless that is, the 2013 relaunch 5 and 6, Uncanny X-Men Annual Number 1, and All New X-Men Annual Number 1, for the people wondering, why wasn't that collected in the All New X-Men Omnibus? Collected in this. The book has 1,128 pages and retails for $125. Spoilers, just in case, because I do have to talk about some things that happened within the pages of All New X-Men, what happened previously, and the status quo. So much like the way I did my All New X-Men overview, I have to do it this way to kind of explain what the status quo is, why these mutants are leading this revolution. So, previously on X-Men, Cyclops went a little batty. Not the distinguished competition baddie, but he went nuts when he had the power of the Phoenix. So he was part of the Phoenix 5 during the Avengers vs. X-Men crossover, and he became the Dark Phoenix. There's a lot of that happens through here, like pops up, and people don't forget. One of the things that a lot of people don't forget, including us readers, that he did during that was kill Professor Xavier. So the teams are kind of split up. Wolverine has his own school, the Jean Grey School for Gifted Youngsters. And then Beast is kind of mentoring the all-new X-Men, which are the X-Men, the original 5 that came from the past and are stuck here in present day. And Cyclops is leading a revolution. He is regrouping a bunch of people after the events of Avengers vs. X-Men. So it's kind of like an outlaw band of mutants, and they're establishing the new Charles Xavier School, which a lot of people think it's a big smack to the face. Now, he has recruited people like Magik, Emma Frost, and Magneto, plus some new students in the first issue, some that you've met in the pages of All New X-Men. And at the very beginning, you saw Maria Hill talking to somebody. And I think the point was you're supposed to be led to believe that perhaps the person she's talking to is a bald guy, is none other than Professor Xavier. But no, it's Magneto! Even she's surprised. But he's kind of telling her what Cyclops is and what not to trust. So is he kind of an insider? The more you read, the more you find out, of course. But in the first few issues, or really the first 5 issues, we do get to see their new students. We get to see Eva Bell, who joined in the first issue, and she goes by the name of Tempest. We get to see, actually, no, she joined in the all-new X-Men. We get to see Christopher Muse show up through here, and he's a character that's a bit of a healer, and that is the code name, what does he use? Triage. Triage? I think that's what he uses. You also get to meet, of course, the character of Benjamin Deeds, who I think at this time was just going as Chameleon. He can copy people's powers. Later on, in the pages of Generation X, when it was relaunched, the 2017 series, he will go by another name that some people are probably familiar with, especially if you watch the animated series. And last, but certainly not least, is Fabio Medina, who doesn't have a code name at first, who can create these gold balls, and there's the students, and there are the teachers, with, again, Chris Bachalo on artwork. But he will become an important character, especially him and Tempest, during the Krakoa era. But together, the 4 students and the teachers will go and try to recruit other mutants, especially picking a fight with the not just the Jean Grey school for gifted youngsters, but also Beasts and his school. So one of the things that happens is the Avengers also haven't forgotten. So they come and try to arrest Cyclops, and Emma's like, oh, hell no. And of course they're like, wait, do you not remember what he did? He became the Dark Phoenix. So I'm going to skip some pages here. I'm not going to talk about each story. Just want to kind of point out some of the things that are happening through here. And now, the art will flip back and forth. You will see some stories in here by Chris Bachalo, and then you will see stories in here by none other than Frazier Irving. The stories that Bendis wrote for Irving are really, like, making sure that he is writing for his artist. Because the first story arc here is about perhaps the return of Darkchild, which is this entity that the character of Magik can turn into. She's always had this connection to, of course, Limbo, but in here, it's pretty much a fight against Dormammu, which is really cool. So it starts out in Limbo, and now she has to fight off against Dormammu, and then seeking the help of course, Doctor Strange. So you will be seeing a lot more of the Marvel Universe characters. One of the things that ends up happening, too, is that one of the original 5 ends up leaving the school. I love this image right here, actually. These images here of Darkchild, and then this negative image here. But yeah, one of the original 5 decides to come with Cyclops, and that is Angel. And you're going to see a lot of flip-flopping between teams. Some of them will go with, of course, Kitty Pryde, and some of them will go with Cyclops. And back and forth, back and forth. We actually get to know the kids a little bit more through here, too. You have S.H.I.E.L.D. trying to track down these particular characters, and they end up getting the help of this character right here, who you saw in the back of the dust jacket, and that is none other than Allison Blair. And she, of course, is Dazzler. Now, one really obscure character appears through these pages right before Battle of the Atom, and that is, let me just show you here in a little bit. I think it's happening, and actually it happens at the end of this issue. In Uncanny 10, where we're going to see, hey, that's what they use for the art on board, an appearance by this character that you had to pay close attention to. It was a character that appeared on a cover of New Avengers, and it was a variant cover at that. It's when S.H.I.E.L.D. and Sentinels are coming after Cyclops, and, oh, my bad, it was in issue 11. This guy right here, the guy with the light bulb head. Who is this guy? Is he or she truly pulling the strings of S.H.I.E.L.D. and everybody, all these new Sentinels? And then we get to Battle of the Atom. You can find out for yourself exactly who that character is through these pages as he keeps coming back. Or she keeps coming back. Don't want to give that away. Battle of the Atom is basically the story of the original 5, so it is a big crossover with not just all new X-Men, but also Wolverine and the X-Men, Adjectiveless X-Men, and then, of course, the Battle of the Atom one-shots. It's about a group of mutants from the future, the X-Men, as they call themselves, from the future, that have traveled back to the past because they know that the X-Men, the original 5, are not supposed to be here. We have to send them back. We're here to stop you from making a terrible mistake, a disastrous one that will end our species. That's kind of the idea for the story here of Battle of the Atom. So you have these strangers that show up through here. Some of them may look familiar to you, and I'll tell you who they are, but there are some spoilers later on as to who they truly are. You've got Catherine Pryde here, like an older Catherine Pryde, wearing the stereotypical outfit that she did in Days of Future Past. Wolverine kind of noticing her, doesn't really notice the smells of all the people here. You've got Beast that has completely turned into like this demon-looking beast. You've got the character of Ice Hulk, and you've got, well, over here, maybe Deadpool, and you've got Xavier, and he might have actual relations with, he might actually be related to the original Xavier. And then you've got another character here that kind of looks familiar. If you pay attention to the 616, I don't want to spoil who that is, just in case. But that's what this is. And what happens? Well, the new X-Men, the original 5, are like, hell no, we're not going to go back. We're here for a reason. So they take off. And this becomes a seek and destroy type of mission. You have a character of Zorn showing up, and again, she has her own identity. And then you've got other X-Men that show up from the future. So there's a lot of reunions, a lot of questions. Who do you trust? Who do you not trust? And that's all I will say about Battle of the Atom. It is a crossover that is with all those other issues. And then we move on to the next story arcs collected in here. And this is where we start getting to know more of these newer characters. In practically like issue number 14 and 15, we get to know a little bit more about Tempest and the character of Goldball, the character known at the time as a chameleon, and Triage. And then we have a little story with Magneto, which kind of leads into the Magneto series that Cullen Bunn went on to write. And we get to see the characters. Actually, this is the most X-Men story in here that reminds me of a Chris Claremont story. And I know I hate saying that, but if you've read enough Chris Claremont, you know that there's so many tropes that happens through his issues. You have the training issue, and then just this amazing girls' night out at the mall, and night out. By the way, the Cuckoos show up through here, and they actually end up joining the Uncanny X-Men, and eventually you'll have them like having different outfits. And one of the things that happens through these issues is, this is the Magneto issue, is the idea that there's the Terrigen Mist. That's why there's a crossover with the Inhumanity, or it was the Dot Inhumanity issue. That there was a Terrigen Mist that kind of spread out through the Infinity event, so millions of new Inhumans were born because of that. But one of the important things that happens to one of the characters, this is what I meant by the Stepford Cuckoos, now they look a little bit different, so they have different hairdos, is that the character of Ava ends up disappearing. She's lost in time for a while, and she kind of comes back like the character of Magik. She comes back as an older woman. And nobody knows what happened to her. She just comes back during that particular story. But it is explained a little bit later. You have the fight with S.H.I.E.L.D. through these issues. And there's a lot of fighting with S.H.I.E.L.D. through these issues. There's one whole story arc where Cyclops and his students are under attack by the Sentinels. And then it turns out maybe the person with that light bulb for a head could be behind these attacks. And you got some Andrea Sorrentino artwork through here, and I think this is the annual. The annuals are a crossover that explain where Tempest went and why she aged. So it's very reminiscent to what happened to the character of Ileana Rasputin, where she was aged up some. But worry not, it is explains all through here. And then we get to what I think is probably the last really big arc, because it all kind of connects. The Last Will and Testament of Charles Xavier. So the Last Will and Testament of Charles Xavier is okay, now that Professor X is dead, there's a lot of secrets that he left behind. And one of his biggest secrets is the failure of some, by gosh, Adi Gornov's art. They made actual statues of this, by the way. One of the biggest failures that he had was this character named Matthew Malloy. So now the X-Men find out about him. So everybody was after these testaments and these will of Professor Xavier, but when it comes down to it, really it was the secret mutant, this Omega Mutant, that was a danger to everybody. And it is a character known as Matthew Malloy, who's got these godlike powers that Xavier was holding back with his mental blocks. But now, because, see what I mean, why I had to explain that Professor Xavier's dead, those mental blocks aren't there anymore. So now you've got the X-Men running and trying to find this character of Matthew Malloy, who is an Omega Mutant, and trying to help him control his powers before he does a lot of damage. By now, you've seen things like the character of Dazzler end up joining the team. You see the return of Mystique in here. And then you see like the kids kind of become their own people and become their own adults too, and not really wanting to stay and stick around by the rules. So they kind of grow into their own characters, and of course all of this with all new X-Men lead into the big issue 600. Oh, there's a wonderful reunion here too between Cyclops and Havoc. Havoc during this time was hanging out with the Uncanny Avengers. Actually, the previous issue is awesome too. It's the one where Magik and Kitty Pryde head to the Monster Island to rescue a new mutant. And then there's this whole issue with this, this one right here. There's an issue in here with Mystique and Dazzler. And then all of it leading into the big finale, which is after issue 35, right here, issue 600. Which kind of wraps up the stories of, let's go back a little bit, of All New X-Men and Uncanny X-Men that Brian Michael Bendis was telling. And then, of course, after this came Uncanny X-Men by Cullen Bunn, and All New X-Men by Dennis Hopeless, and Extraordinary X-Men by Jeff Lemire. Now, let's look at the extras. Those, by the way, are not collected in oversized hardcovers, nor in omnibus editions. The Apocalypse Wars, I guess, and Inhumans versus X-Men has been collected in oversized hardcover, but that's it. Here we have the variant covers. And again, telling you where they originated from. And some of the variant covers are on the opposite side of the standard edition cover. Most of these, hey, that's the direct market cover they use. Most of these, of course, are done in a splash page. That's awesome. They have Paul Smith back with Paul Mounts on colors. That's the Olivier Coipel with Havoc just kind of sitting there with the invisible chair. And then you have the toy covers, the character designs over here. I do love the outfit that Cyclops wears. It's so stupid. He's got a target on his face, but it's just, I don't know, it works. Magik's outfit. This really is the run that solidified Magik as an X-Men, right? Before Magik had come back in the pages of New X-Men. And she had been a character that, you know, people talked about, but she didn't have the fan, like, especially now because of Marvel Rivals, the fan following that she has now. But this is the run that brought her in as a main character. And after this run, yeah, she stuck around with Extraordinary, and of course played a big part in Krakoa, and still playing a big part in X-Men in the From the Ashes era. We have some original pages here, including Marco Rudy's colors. And this is from his last issue, from issue 600 by Bendis, saying goodbye. Of course, he will be coming back for Avengers. Now, let's talk about the binding and build here. 1,128 pages. And the book has sewn binding. Not that big of an eye, so we're going to look at the double page spreads here in a little bit. Printed at the Mega Print. And honestly, these days, the paper stock of Donley, Mega Print, and iMac feels about the same. So there is a little bit of bleed through happening. Like right here, you can see the word bubble from the other side. And it's usually on the whites or lighter colors. And, hey, perfect place. You do have just a little gutter loss right here, where you have to kind of hold it down to see the whole image. And that's due to that eye. So what I want to do really quick, since this was collected before in a series of oversized hardcovers that I showed earlier, is just kind of show you the way these were printed. Actually, the paper stock in these are really thin compared to this. So let's zoom out a little bit and truly show you what these look like. So again, the paper stock in this is thinner than the paper stock over here. At least that's what it feels like to me. So there's bleed through. And you can actually, bleed through seems about the same. Now the gutter loss actually is pretty good on this one, man. Let's see if we can find another page. That's pretty solid for a book that I thought was glued binding, but it could be. Let me see really quick. No, it is glued binding. Okay, just making sure. Wow, it's pretty good for a book that's got glued binding, which goes to show you that sewn binding doesn't always mean perfection. Okay, here we go. Especially when your book has over 1,100 pages. So the colors here are a little more, I want to say a little more muted than over here. Not by much, but you can see the type of gutter loss. See a little bit more of the image over here, honestly, because you can see the corner of the box without having to hold it down. Yeah. So that was a quick, just little comparison to the oversized hardcover. But that is it. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsors. BD Cosmos, the Canadian leader in graphic novels. They have a physical storefront in Montreal, Quebec, and their website, bdcosmos.com, offers 25% off your order of over $99 or more, and free shipping everywhere in Canada for every order of $250 or more.
Their shipping care is exceptional. Your books will stay cozy through the rough Canadian weather and arrive to you in near mint condition.
After checkout, let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way, and you'll be added to the monthly $25 gift card raffle. Entries are valid for new and returning customers.
Don't be afraid to call or email them. Ask them questions. Their staff is always happy to help guide you towards the right purchase. Visit their website, bdcosmos.com, for more. BD Cosmos, with rewards and raffles taking care of customers in Canada.
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget, the CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this omnibus. And of course, the quick comparison to the oversized hardcover. If you have any questions, leave your questions down below. Let me know what you think about this era in case you have it, and if you already have the all-new X-Men omnibus. And again, a reminder that the Black Vortex storyline is not collected in this omnibus, nor the all-new X-Men omnibus, nor the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 omnibus by Brian Michael Bendis. So, just letting people know, it is available in trade paperback and a long out-of-print oversized hardcover. Any questions, leave them down below. Smash that like button on the way out. Everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.